Our journey across Northern Europe is almost over. It's time to leave Copenhagen today. We're heading south. This is Travelcaster, the travel pod that takes you there. Our journey so far has taken us through the Baltic states, across Scandinavia and down here to Copenhagen in Denmark. We're nearly done, but there are still a couple of stops left to go. Today we'll be travelling to the German city of Osnabruk via Hamburg, and then on to our final destination. So it's just after 9 o'clock at Copenhagen Central Station. It's not too busy at the moment. The morning rush hour appears to have finished and the trains are running on time. Now, the first of our trains today will be an ICE Deutsche Bahn German train going to Hamburg. Now, throughout this journey we've been talking about travelling by first class and the joys of doing so. But on closer inspection, my reservation today revealed that the seat was in a compartment, not a carriage, and the compartment was fairly full. Now, even when it comes to first class, I'm not so fussed about sharing with 5 other strangers in a fairly cramped area. So I've changed my reservation to second class to get a window seat and a bit more legroom. It's well worth checking out the layout of your train when you're booking the reservations. And if you do so through the Deutsche Bahn website, it'll give you a diagram of what the train looks like. The Rendsburg Viaduct in northern Germany is one of the most impressive structures you'll ever see. We've just gone across it and it was lovely, and now the train has stopped. There's a technical fault, which means our connection onto Hamburg is delayed and we don't know by how long. This means I'll probably miss my onward train to Osnabruk. It's the German railway system again, everybody. Well, we've now arrived at Hamburg station over an hour late, which doesn't help things. Fortunately, there is an hourly train onward to Osnabruk, our destination for today. But Hamburg, like many German stations, is enormous. You'll need your wits about you to get about the place. I've come down to platform 14, where there is indeed a sign for the train to Munich. That's the one that we're going to get on. But at the other end of the platform, there's a sign for a completely different train to a different destination, neither of which have arrived yet. This is going to be interesting. Well, we did finally make it onto the second train of the day, this one to Osnabruk. We're going to be there in about an hour and a half from Hamburg. Not a bad travelling time at all, but after all of those delays earlier, it's not left us with much time. I'm only going to be in Osnabruk for one night. It is not nearly enough to see everything that the city has to offer, but we're going to try and make the most of the evening once we do get there. Well, Osnabruk Central was a bit busier than I thought it would be. There's an international train going all the way to Amsterdam, which is where we're going to be heading tomorrow. But this evening, we've come to the Oldstadt, the Osnabruk Old Town, and you can in fact get a train just one stop from the main station to the Old Town's own station. It's going to save you a few steps if you're staying in this part of the town. So what is it that attracted me here to Osnabruk? Well, it has to be said, when you come out of the station and into the town at first, it looks like pretty much any other German market town. Heavily bombed during the Second World War, reconstructed in the 50s and 60s, and boy does the architecture show it. But then you come to here, the marketplace, and the impressive town hall, finished in 1521. It's got an enormous facade about it, very windy here this evening, and behind it is the Mariakirche, the evangelical church, which stands aside the town hall itself. But Osnabruk is perhaps more important than you think, because it was here in 1648 that a treaty was signed to end the 30 Years' War. It was a conflict that tore Europe apart at the time, and that agreement paved the way for what many of us now see as Europe itself. Now, wherever you are in Osnabruk's old town, your eyes will be drawn to the big daddy of them all, St. Peter's Cathedral. Standing proud, dates back over 1200 years, done in a Baroque style, says the helpful guide from my hotel. Interestingly, next to the big church, though, is Kleine Kirken, the little church. Both Catholic denominations, but they couldn't be more different in appearance. The little church does look a little forlorn compared to its big cousin. Being here in the evening, of course, on a weekday, we can't get in. Have to come back on a Sunday. Must go to confession at some point. Now, a week ago, we were in snowy Stockholm honouring ABBA on their 50th anniversary of winning the Eurovision Song Contest with their song Waterloo. And everything's connected in a roundabout way, because at the end of Osnabruk's old town, you'll come to here, the Hegertor. It's where the old town meets the rather noisier new town. It's a big stone gate. It looks like it could be medieval, but in fact, it was built to honour the soldiers from here in Osnabruk who fought Napoleon in the Battle of Waterloo. Everything's circular, you see. And that's not the only German-Scandinavian connection, because remember, in Bergen we were discovering the Hanseatic Quarter, where merchants from this part of the world settled in that part of the world. Now, I'd love to say that this town hall square was full of taverns and inns with pavement dining and revellers of all kinds enjoying the outdoor alfresco dining. And indeed, there are chairs set up for that kind of thing, but on a Tuesday evening, it's not happening. The only thing that is happening is cyclists going at enormous speed. Not many of them, but you do have to look out for them. Must be something about this part of the world that makes cycling attractive, although I can't say that these cobblestones beneath my feet would do much for my saddle technique. Now, I've opted to stay at the Dom Hotel here in Osnabruk. It's right next to the cathedral, and it's a sort of boutique hotel, not too many rooms, which I quite like, and some nice artwork on the walls, some modern furnishings, and I like this little feature. It says at the window, switch the sun on or off, because this operates the roller blinds that are on the outside of the building. Quite common in Europe, particularly in the sunnier months. You can make sure the sun doesn't come in too much. And I'm all for hotels having energy-saving devices, but here in the bathroom is something a bit weird, because the sink has a tap, and to operate the tap, you wave your hands underneath it, and water comes out for a few seconds at a time. And you have to keep waving your hand about to get any water flowing for any length of time. And to be quite honest, after a potentially heavy night, that's the last thing you want to face in the morning. What happened to normal taps? I want my taps back. Well, things did get a little bit more lively last night. Had a lovely meal just off the marketplace in a restaurant that specialised in home, hearty, cooked German food, and a delicious schnitzel was absorbed by my good self. After that, went to a pub where there was football on, and this happened. That was Bayern Munich's Harry Kane putting their team ahead in the Champions League quarter-final against Arsenal. Yes, it went down very well. In the end, the game was a draw, but it's a two-legged affair, so we'll see what happens. However, our brief stop in Osnabruk must come to an end. We've got to move on now to our next destination. You're listening to Travelcaster, today from Osnabruk in Germany. And if you'd like to know more about what we've done and how to get here, check out travelcaster.blog. And don't forget to subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening. This is Travelcaster, the travel pod that takes you there. Now, along with the old town, there's plenty to explore in and around Osnabruk itself. The new town is a bustling town centre, as you'd expect. And around here, though, is loads of greenery, because Osnabruk is the only place in Germany that sits within a national park. And looking around, there are loads of bus and train connections going to all manner of places in the immediate area. So if you did decide to spend a bit more time here, there'd be plenty to do. But we haven't got that time. We've got to move on now because our journey continues. And today we're going to be travelling to Belgium, Antwerp to be precise, via Amsterdam in the Netherlands. It's going to take us about 3 hours to get from here in Osnabruk to Amsterdam itself, and then a change of train. Once again, we shall be relying on the reliability of the German railway system. Now, rather annoyingly, Mr. Suitcase has developed a squeak. It's getting me some very funny looks. What did I tell you? Deutsche Bahn has let us down again. Waiting for the Amsterdam Central train. It's now currently about 20 minutes late, departing from here in Osnabruk. No sign of it yet, and every couple of minutes the departure board makes the delay a little bit longer, which is going to make our connection in Amsterdam a little bit shorter, and Amsterdam's a huge station. And here we are at Amsterdam Central. Guess what? We came in on a different platform, which meant I couldn't cross the platform to get the train, which was leaving from the platform across the way, if that makes sense. The guard on board the DB train was very apologetic and gave me a voucher for €3 to spend in the kiosk. I then noticed that next to the kiosk there was an international lounge, which was free to Eurail first-class pass holders. I negotiated some construction works, went over a ramp, descended and ascended several escalators, only to find the lounge was closed. So here I am with my free cheese sandwich and a coffee that cost about €2.50. Lunch. Now time for another Travelcaster tip, and this is if you're travelling to or from the Netherlands. Today we're here at Amsterdam Central and we're heading to Antwerp in Belgium. In front of me is a Eurostar train on its way to Paris, which goes in the right direction and to the right station. But to get on it with my Eurail pass, I'll have to buy a mandatory reservation. However, in about 20 minutes' time, and indeed every hour from Amsterdam Central, is another train that goes to Brussels via Antwerp. And for that, I won't be paying anything. All of this is explained in the Eurail app, which gives you instructions on when you need to buy a supplement and how to do it. Oh, and just to add a little bit of confusion, if you're staying within the Netherlands on one of these services, you will have to buy a supplement, which you can pay for on the train. And less than 2 hours from Amsterdam, we've arrived at Antwerp Central Station. And what an arrival. When you get here, it's worth bearing in mind that the platforms are underground and you'll go up about 3 or 4 of the steepest escalators you have ever seen into this magnificent, historic booking hall. It is enormous, and there's a huge glass roof at the centrepiece of which are these sort of, I don't know what you'd call them, Romanesque columns going up, Art Deco. There's a huge clock, and the city of Antwerp's coat of arms are before you on this magnificent concourse. This is one of the best railway stations I have ever arrived at visually. It's absolutely beautiful. Now, the first thing you're going to notice is that although Antwerp seems quite big, it's dead easy to navigate. When you get to the central station, turn left and keep going up the main street. It's about a 25-minute walk to the main attraction. Alternatively, though, you can just get on the metro and ride 3 stops to the Groenplatz, follow the smells and the sights of all of the tourists, and eventually you will come to Hiss. It's the mother of all churches in Antwerp, the Cathedral of Our Lady, Mary. An enormous set of Gothic spires rise up from the ground to a massive tower adorned by a golden clock on four sides. And at this time of the evening, some quite excited kids who are playing around on a nearby sculpture. In fact, art and architecture are all around here. You just can't miss it. It's really stunning. But there is more to come. With the cathedral in front of you, take a left, walk down the alley, and you'll come to here. The Groot Market, the big market, and big it is indeed. In front of me, a huge city hall, adorned in flags of different nations and this region of Belgium as well. And next to it, Gothic architecture all around, and an enormous statue with waterfalls and gargoyles and everything that you would expect from something extremely European and extremely ornate. You can read about the history of this area at travelcaster.blog. I'm not going to do the lecture here because, well, I just want to drink in the scenery. It's absolutely stunning. And it's a lovely evening for it too. As you walk from the Groot Market down the Corn Market, you'll be tempted by the sights and smells of all types of cuisine. There is Italian here, there is Asian, there is Lebanese, and there's all kinds of places to drink. One place I recommend is Tram 3. Opened in 2019, this venue is set in an 18th century house. It's got an extremely bohemian feel with a conservatory, a bar, and a terrace that looks out over the spire of the cathedral. If I'm being honest, you could spend a whole week walking along the Corn Market. You'd never go hungry. And you'd never be bored. Sitting in the balcony window overlooking the streets in Tram 3 reminded me of somewhere in Tuscany, maybe Pisa. Whereas a visit to kids reminded me of being in Memphis or New Orleans. This is Kids Rhythm and Blues Cafe Bar since 1995, says the sign. And on a Thursday night, it's jam night, where amateur musicians just play away. Nothing says good morning more than the sound of a vibrant construction site. And there are a few of those here in Antwerp, but construction's a good thing. It means there's progress. And you don't have to step very far to get away from the melee of all of this. All you have to do is walk up near the main shopping street and look for the archway, the unassuming decorative entrance to the Stadsfietsal, which I'm told is quite a sight. Now, normally I'm not a fan of shopping malls because they're all the same. They're all a bit corporate. And then you walk into the Stadsfietsal. Oh my goodness. It's like being in a gold version of Grand Central Station or a palace of some description. It's absolutely amazing. And yeah, there are a couple of chain stores, Flying Tiger and Sawstring Green over there, but the surroundings are palatial. And if you go up the stairs, you can get an amazing view of the whole place. Check out the pictures of this at travelcaster.blog. From a shopping palace to a real palace. This is the Palace of the Mere. Built in the middle of the 18th century by Johann Alexander van Susteren, a wealthy merchant, says the plaque. The city palace was described in 1771 as a regal house. 1811, Napoleon Bonaparte purchases this place as his official residence in Antwerp, but never stays here. And then, in 1815, it fell into the hands of Dutch King William I, becoming a royal palace in 1830. It goes back to Belgian hands. Today, it's used for all kinds of cultural events, weddings, parties, you name it, you can hire it out. And to get inside the palace, well, you'll have to visit one of the restaurants and retail establishments here. There's a high-end chocolatier, looks very nice, and also a cafe, which you can sit outside in this gorgeous courtyard when the weather gets a little bit better. No entrance fee, though. You can walk around the grounds for free. Old buildings are always fascinating places, and this is the Plantin Moretus Museum. It celebrates the life of Christophe Plantin, a bookbinder and leather crafter from France, who came to Antwerp in the middle of the 16th century and set up a bookbinding and printing empire. It really did have a profound effect on the way that books were published and printed all over the world in different languages. And this house, his residence, and indeed the factory, if you like, of the publishing empire, is a great place to walk around and find out all about the history of typefaces, printing presses, everything of that nature. This two-storey mansion, just a few minutes from the Groot Market, is well worth a couple of hours of your time. For €12 you get an audio guide and all of the creaky floors that you could wish for. With the City Hall in front of you, take the path to the left and walk 10 minutes down the road to here, Antwerp's bustling waterfront area. And it's here you will find the city's oldest building, Hechteen, a fortress dating back to the 13th century. It stands impressively on the waterfront itself and also acts as a tourist information centre. Now, you can't climb the original fortress, but there is a viewing platform at the back of the tourist centre that's open, and you'll get a panoramic view across the waterfront and back to Antwerp city centre. Now, as we're recording this, there is an extensive programme of renovation going on along the waterfront. Lots of new paving and improvements being made that are due to be finished for March 2025. At the moment, it looks a bit of a mess, but when it's done, it's going to be quite a splendid view. Nevertheless, from this viewpoint at the top of Hechteen, you can get a pretty good panoramic vision of what's before you and what you've seen. Not the first time that we've heard that tune on our trip around Europe, but it may well be the last. For me, Antwerp has been the most vibrant and diverse of the 10 cities that we've visited on this 3-week tour. There's a huge mix of culture, buildings competing to be better than one another next to each other everywhere you go, and some great places to eat and drink. But that's the end of the line for our trip to Antwerp, and indeed our trip across Europe. To find out how we did it and what we did when we got here, head to travelcaster.blog. And please subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening, and join us again soon for some more Travelcaster, the travel pod that takes you there. All of the information provided on this podcast is correct at the time of recording. That's March and April 2024. Travelcaster receives no fees or commissions for any of the places or services featured. All of the views are those of Travelcaster. If you'd like to get involved with the podcast and potentially sponsor us, check out travelcaster.blog and hit the contact button.